The city of Neo Haven never slept. Its streets glowed with blue lights and the sky was always dark. Filled with tall towers and flying machines, among the noise and shine, a small shadow moved fast between metal walls. It was a young girl named Lyra, only 16, her hair messy, her eyes bright but tired. She ran with a glowing crystal in her hand, its light shining through her fingers like a tiny star. Behind her, voices shouted, "Stop her! The thief has the energy core." Lyra's heart beat fast. Her shoes hit the wet metal ground as she turned into a narrow alley. She knew these streets better than anyone. She grew up here, in the broken corners of Neo Haven where no one cared about the poor. People said she was a thief, a liar, a girl with no future. But they didn't know the truth. She wasn't stealing for money. She was stealing to save her mother. Her mother, Mira, was sick. Her lungs were dying every night. Lyra would listen to her mother's weak breathing and promise herself that she would find a way. Doctors refused to help. Medicine was too expensive. Only one thing could save her now: an energy crystal that could power the old medical pod in their tiny room. But those crystals were protected by the Galactic Authority. Stealing one was a crime punishable by death. Lyra didn't care. She had already lost everything except her mother. She whispered to herself as she ran, "Just a little more. Just a little longer." The guard's footsteps echoed behind her. The city drones hovered above, scanning the area with red beams of light. Her heart raced faster. She took a turn and climbed a metal ladder leading to the upper bridge. The wind blew hard and rain started to fall. She slipped once, but she held on tight. Refusing to let go, from the bridge she jumped down into an old factory. The place was silent and filled with dust. Broken machines stood like sleeping giants, forgotten by time. Lyra hid behind one of them, breathing hard. The crystal in her hand still glowed, its light pulsing softly. She looked at it and whispered, "Please, just work once, please." Suddenly the crystal shimmered brighter. Lyra gasped. It felt warm, almost alive. The air around her changed. Small sparks of light danced around her fingers. Machines in the factory started to hum quietly. Their old metal parts began to move as if waking up after a long sleep. Lyra stared in shock. What's happening?" she whispered. The crystal was reacting to her touch, like it knew her. No one else could make it do this. She heard the guards outside, their voices getting closer. She ran deeper into the factory. Her feet splashed through puddles, and the glowing crystal lit her path. She reached a door that said "Restricted Laboratory." She pushed it open and stepped inside. It was dark and cold, filled with strange machines and broken glass. The room looked like it hadn't been used in years. Lyra placed the crystal on a metal table. She opened her small bag and took out a small photo. Her mother smiling, holding her as a baby. Her eyes filled with tears, she whispered, "I didn't steal for myself, Mom. I just wanted to save you." Her voice broke. The crystal pulsed again as if answering her. Its light spread across the room, touching the walls, the floor, and the machines. Screens flickered to life, showing strange symbols and alien words. Lyra stepped back, afraid but curious. "Is someone there?" she asked softly. No answer came, but one of the screens changed. A message appeared. It said, "Access granted. Hybrid signal detected." Lyra froze. "Hybrid? What does that mean?" she whispered. Before she could think, the door behind her burst open. The guards had found her. "Hands up. Step away from the device," one of them shouted. The bright light from the crystal exploded suddenly. The shockwave threw everyone back. Lyra fell to the ground. The sound of alarms echoing everywhere, she crawled toward the crystal. It was floating now, spinning slowly in the air. Her reflection shimmered inside it, her eyes glowing faint blue. She whispered, trembling, "What are you?" And for a moment she thought she heard a voice inside her mind. It said, "You already know, Lyra." Her body felt weak, but something deep inside her awakened. The machines around her bowed slightly, their metal arms moving as if following her will. The guards looked terrified. "She's controlling the machines," one shouted. Lyra stood, her hair moving in the wind of the energy wave. "I'm not a thief," she said softly. "I'm just trying to save my mom." The light burst out again, brighter than before, and when it faded, Lyra was gone. Only the sound of the crystal remained, softly humming as if waiting for her return. When Lyra opened her eyes, the world was quiet. Cold air touched her face and soft blue light surrounded her. She wasn't in the old factory anymore. Instead, She lay inside a small metal room filled with wires and screens. For a moment she thought she was dead, but then she felt her heart beating fast. She was alive. Somehow she slowly sat up, her hands shaking. The glowing crystal rested beside her on a metal table. Pulsing like a heartbeat, it looked weaker now, its light dimmer. Lyra reached out and touched it, and the crystal warmed again. Her fingers glowed faintly blue, and tiny sparks of energy danced across her skin. She gasped and pulled her hand back, whispering, "What's happening to me?" A low voice answered from the shadows. "It's reacting to you." Lyra jumped up. Looking around, a tall man stepped forward, half his face covered by metal plating, one eye glowing red. He wore a long coat full of wires and tools. He said calmly, "You should be dead, little thief." Lyra frowned. "I'm not a thief," she said softly. "I was trying to save my mom." The man's expression didn't change. He looked at the crystal, his red eye scanning it. "You stole an energy core from the Galactic Authority," he said. "Do you even know what this is?" Lyra shook her head. He sighed and picked up a small device, projecting a hologram of the crystal. "This," he said, "is not just a power source. It's a galactic archive core created thousands of years ago. It can store life, control machines, even heal. But in the wrong hands, it can destroy planets." Lyra stared in silence. "I didn't mean to take something dangerous," she whispered. The man tilted his head. "Then why did it wake up for you?" Lyra looked at her hands, the blue glow fading slowly. "I don't know," she said quietly. "It just listens to me." The man looked closer, scanning her again. "No human has ever activated an archive core," he said. "Unless—" He stopped mid-sentence, confusion in his voice. "What?" Lyra asked. He frowned. "Unless they aren't fully human," Lyra froze. "What are you talking about?" He stepped closer, his tone serious. "The core recognizes bloodlines. It only responds to its own creators, the Elysians. They were an ancient alien race that disappeared centuries ago." Lyra shook her head, backing away. "No, I'm not. I'm just me," she said. But the man's expression softened. "Maybe you believe that," he said. "But your blood says something else." He turned off the hologram and looked at her again. "My name is Kale," he said. "I used to work for the Authority, until they started hunting hybrids." Lyra blinked. "Hybrids?" Kale nodded, half human, half Elysian. He looked down at the crystal. "And if you are one, the Authority will come for you." Lyra's chest tightened. Her mother's face flashed in her mind, weak. Pale dying, she whispered, "I don't care who I am. I just need to save her." Kyle stared at her for a long moment. Finally, he said quietly, "Then you'll need to learn how to use that core." He tapped the crystal with a small tool, and it flickered weakly. "It's dying," he said. "Its power was meant to be used with a twin, the second core. The Authority keeps it locked in their main facility, under heavy security." Lyra's heart sank. "So I have half of what I need?" Hale nodded. "Yes, and without the other half, this one will fade completely." The thought of failure made Lyra's throat tighten. If the crystal died, her mother would die too. She looked up at Kale, determination burning in her eyes. "Then I'll find the other one," she said. Kale frowned. "That's suicide." Lyra stood, holding the crystal close to her chest. "I've lived my whole life running," she said softly. "Maybe it's time I stop running and start fighting." Kale watched her, and for the first time, something like respect appeared in his eyes. "You remind me of someone," he said. "Someone who once believed in impossible things." Lyra looked around the room, noticing strange machines and old parts scattered everywhere. "This place," she asked, "is it your lab?" Kale nodded. "An old one hidden from the scanners. No one knows it exists." He handed her a small device. "Keep this," he said. "If you lose control again, it will calm the core's energy." Lyra took it carefully. "Lose control?" she repeated. Kale looked serious. "That thing is alive and it feeds on emotion, your emotion. If you're angry, it'll burn. If you're afraid, it'll lash out. If you lose focus, it could destroy everything." Lyra's hands trembled slightly. She looked at the glowing crystal. "Its light pulsing softly," she whispered. "Then I'll have to stay calm." Kale turned away and started working on his machines again. "You'll need more than calm," he said. "You'll need to face who you really are." Outside, thunder rolled across the sky, and in the distance, Drones from the Galactic Authority scanned the dark city. Searching for the stolen core, Lyra didn't know what she had awakened inside herself, but deep down she felt it, something powerful, something waiting. And when she looked at the crystal again, it seemed to whisper back, "You were never meant to hide, Lyra. You were meant to rise." The night outside Kale's lab was silent. The city lights flickered like stars trapped in glass. Inside, Lyra sat near the glowing crystal, watching it pulse like a slow heartbeat each time it lit up. She felt something deep in her chest, a strange warmth, as if the crystal was breathing with her. She wanted to believe it was just energy, just light. But a quiet voice in her heart whispered that it was something more. Kale worked silently at his table, wires and sparks flying around him. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in years. Finally, he spoke. "You haven't asked why the core called you a hybrid?" Lyra's eyes lifted. Nervous. "Because I don't want to know," she said softly. Kale looked up, his red eye glowing. "You should." He pressed a button, and the hologram of the crystal appeared again, showing strange symbols swirling inside. "These symbols," he said, "are DNA codes, half human, half something else." He turned to her. "They match yours." Lyra's stomach twisted. "That can't be true," she whispered. Kale nodded. "It is. The core scanned you the moment you touched it." Lyra stood up, pacing, her hands shaking. "So you're saying I'm not human?" Kale hesitated. "Not completely. You're part of something older, something that was never meant to exist on this planet." Lyra felt her heart beating faster, her mind filled with flashes, lights, cold air, a woman's voice calling her name. She pressed her hands against her temples. "I remember something," she whispered. Kyle watched her closely. "Tell me," he said. "I was small," Lyra said slowly, "and there were tall figures around me, their skin glowing silver, and they spoke in a language I didn't understand. Then everything went dark. Tears filled her eyes. I thought it was a dream." Kale shook his head. "No dream, Lyra. Those were Elysians." He touched the hologram again, and an old file appeared, a recording from long ago. It showed a woman with gentle eyes and silver skin. Her voice calm and kind. She looked directly into the camera and said, "If you're seeing this, it means my child has survived." Lyra's breath stopped. The woman's voice continued, "Her name is Lyra. She carries both my blood and human blood. She is the bridge between worlds. I created her to heal the sickness that destroyed our kind. Protect her, and tell her I love her." The recording ended. Lyra fell to her knees, shaking. "That was her," she whispered. "My real mother." Kale's voice was quiet. "Yes, she was one of the last Elysians." He looked at Lyra with pity. The Galactic Authority erased her name from history. They feared her work, creating life that could heal both species. Lyra wiped her tears, trying to breathe. "So I'm part of her experiment?" Kale nodded slowly. "You were sent to Earth as a child, hidden from those who wanted to destroy you. Someone found you, raised you, maybe without ever knowing what you truly were." Lyra thought of her human mother, Mira, weak and coughing in their small room. She remembered her warm smile, her soft voice. "She knew," Lyra whispered suddenly. "She must have known. She always said my blood was special. She used to tell me never to show anyone my scars." Kale looked serious. "Then she was protecting you." He turned to the screens. "But now that you've activated the core, your signal is exposed. The Galactic Authority will know exactly where you are." Lyra stood, determination shining through her tears. "Let them come," she said. "I won't hide anymore." Kyle frowned. "Bravery is not enough, Lyra. You don't even know how to control what's inside you." The crystal glowed brighter. As if reacting to her emotion, Kyle stepped back. "Calm down. It's feeding on your feelings again." Lyra tried to slow her breathing, but the light around her grew stronger. Machines began to hum, floating slightly off the ground. Her hair lifted in the air. Glowing faintly blue, Kale shouted, "Stop! You'll overload the lab." But Lyra couldn't stop it. It felt like fire in her veins, like something ancient waking up after a long sleep. Then suddenly she screamed and the light burst out. Everything went white for a moment, and when it faded, the lab was silent. Kale looked around in awe. Nothing was destroyed. In fact, the broken machines were now repaired, shining and working again. Lyra stood at the center, her eyes glowing softly. I didn't mean to, she said in shock. Kale whispered, You just restored matter. That's impossible. Lyra looked down at her hands, trembling. It doesn't feel impossible. The screens flashed red. Breaking their silence, a robotic voice echoed through the lab. Unauthorized core energy detected, location traced. Enforcement units deployed, Kale cursed under his breath. They found us. Lyra looked toward the window, the city lights flashing red outside. She picked up the crystal, its light matching hers now. Then we run, she said. Kale grabbed his tools. Run where? Lyra looked up at the sky, her eyes steady. To find the truth, she said. And the other core. The ground shook as ships descended from above. Kyle and Lyra raced into the tunnels beneath the lab, the sound of machines roaring behind them. The girl once called a thief was no longer running for survival. She was running toward her destiny. And in the darkness, the crystal whispered again, You were born to heal what was broken, Lyra. But to heal, something must first break. The underground tunnel stretched like veins beneath the shining city of Neo Haven. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing softly in the dark. Lyra and Kale ran through the narrow path, their shadows flashing across the walls behind them. The faint sound of engines grew louder, drones scanning the tunnels, searching for movement. Lyra clutched the glowing crystal close to her chest, its light dimming as if it too was afraid. Kale's mechanical eye flickered red, scanning the route ahead. They've activated the interplanetary security unit, he said in a low voice. Once they lock onto your hybrid signal, they won't stop. Lyra looked back, panting. Then we have to move faster. Kale frowned. You don't understand, Lyra. These aren't normal soldiers. They're programmed to hunt people like you. The air trembled as a drone swooped through the tunnel behind them. Its red beam slicing the dark, Lyra raised her hand instinctively, and the crystal in her grip pulsed. The drone froze midair, metal creaking. Kyle watched in disbelief as it crushed itself into a ball and fell to the ground with a loud crash. Lyra looked at her hands, shocked. I didn't mean to do that, Kale whispered. Your power's growing faster than I expected. He pulled her forward. Come on, before more arrive. They reached a broken elevator shaft. Kale hooked a small device onto the cable and motioned for her to grab on, as the lift hummed upward. The tunnel below them glowed red. The drones were burning through the walls. Lyra held onto Kale's arm, trembling. Why are they doing this? Why hunt me for something I didn't choose? Kale looked down, his face grim. Because the galaxy fears what it doesn't understand, he said. The last time a hybrid was born, the skies burned for 100 years. When they reached the surface, they found themselves in the old ruins of Sector 9. Once a rich industrial zone, now just dust and broken towers. Kyle led her into an abandoned communication hub. He slammed his hand onto a rusted console and lights flickered weakly to life. He connected a cable from the core to the console. Blue data symbols spun across the screen. Lyra watched them move like water, her heart pounding. What are you doing? She asked. Kale replied, Trying to trace the other core. Minutes passed, filled with nothing but static. Then suddenly the screen flashed. A holographic map of the city appeared. A red mark blinked in the center. Authority headquarters. Kyle muttered, Of course it's there. Lyra stepped closer. That's where the other core is? He nodded. Yes, deep underground. In the main energy vault. He turned toward her. But that place is a fortress. Even I couldn't get inside without help. Lyra frowned. Then we'll find help. Kale almost laughed. Who would help a wanted hybrid and a traitor engineer? Lyra looked at the core glowing in her hand. The ones who've been forgotten, she said softly. Kale's red eye flickered, studying her face. You mean the underground rebels? He asked. Lyra nodded. You said they used to fight the authority before they vanished. Kale sighed. They didn't vanish. They were erased. But maybe a few survived. He turned off the console and packed his tools. We'll head toward the wastelands, he said. If the rebels still exist, that's where they'll be. As they stepped out of the ruined hub, the sky above Neo Haven burned with light. Massive ships descended. Shining beams scanning every street, Lyra whispered. They're getting closer. Kale grabbed her hand. Then let's make sure they find nothing but ghosts. They ran through the silent wasteland. The ground cracked under their feet, the remains of old wars buried beneath the dust. The stars above looked cold and distant. Lyra's mind was full of questions about her mother, the Elysians and what the core wanted from her. But one thought burned stronger than the rest. She had to save Mira. No matter the cost, as dawn approached, they reached the edge of the red desert. Kaisel scanned the horizon and froze. "There," he said quietly, pointing to a mountain that shimmered faintly blue. "It's not a mountain," Lyra whispered. "It's a shield." Kale nodded. "A cloaking field. Someone's hiding inside." Before they could move closer, a red beam shot across the sand, hitting the ground near their feet. Kale pulled Lyra down behind a rock. From the smoke, 3 drones appeared, followed by tall armored soldiers, their helmets glowing crimson. A metallic voice boomed. "Surrender the core hybrid and your death will be painless." Lyra's grip on the crystal tightened. Kale whispered, "Don't fight, not yet, we're outnumbered." But the soldiers moved closer. Weapons raised, one of them shouted, "On your knees." Lyra looked at Kale, then at the glowing crystal. "I'm done kneeling," she whispered. The core blazed bright in her hand. A wave of energy burst outward, knocking the soldiers off their feet. Sand lifted into the air, swirling like a storm. The soldiers screamed as their armor cracked and their weapons melted. When the light faded, silence filled the desert again. Kale stared at Lyra, eyes wide. "You just took down an entire unit." Lyra looked pale, her voice trembling. "I didn't control it." "It controlled me, far away, deep in the city." The leader of the Galactic Authority watched from a dark room. His cold voice echoed, "Activate the bounty." The hybrid must not reach the second core. And in the desert, Lyra felt it. A new danger rising. A hunt that would not end until she was captured or dead. The galactic hunt had begun, and this time, the whole galaxy was watching. The desert night was colder than ice. Lyra and Kale sat near the broken rocks. Watching the horizon glow with city lights far away, Neo Haven looked peaceful from here. But deep inside it waited the monster they had to face. The Authority headquarters, the most guarded place in the galaxy. Inside it, hidden underground, was the second core, the key to saving Lyra's mother and maybe the entire world. Kale checked his damaged wrist pad. The hologram flickering weakly, he muttered, "Their patrols are tighter than I expected if we go in the front. We die in 10 seconds. Lyra looked at him, calm but firm. "Then we don't go through the front." Kale smirked slightly. "You sound like me when I was young." She smiled faintly. "Maybe I learned from the best." But her eyes were full of fear, not for herself, but for what she might unleash if she lost control again. Kale spread a dusty map on the ground. He pointed to a glowing point near the city's edge. "This old tunnel was built during the Colony War," he said. "It leads under the headquarters, right into the core chamber." Lyra's eyes widened. "You mean we can walk straight into their heart?" Kale nodded. "If we're lucky, yes, but luck won't last long." They spent hours preparing. Kale built a stealth cloak from nanofiber wires and broken drone parts. He handed it to Lyra. "It hides your energy signature, for a while." Lyra placed it over her shoulders, and her body flickered, blending into the shadows. She whispered, "It feels strange," Kale replied. "Get used to strange. It's your new normal." Before dawn, they started their journey back to the city. The roads were empty, guarded by silent machines with red eyes. Lyra kept her breathing slow, her hand never leaving the glowing core hidden in her pouch. When they reached the tunnel entrance, Kale scanned the old panel. The lock opened with a hiss, revealing a long metal corridor leading into darkness. "After you," Kale said quietly. Lyra took the first step, her heart thudding like thunder inside. The air smelled of rust and dust. Old cables hung like vines, and strange whispers echoed through the vents. Kale followed close behind, checking the motion scanner on his wrist. "No movement yet," he said, "but they'll detect us soon." Lyra nodded. "Then we better move fast." After an hour, they reached a sealed gate made of reinforced steel. Kale cursed under his breath. "This door's newer. They've upgraded the security." He pulled out a small tool. Sparks flying as he worked, Lyra placed her hand on the metal, her core glowing faintly through the cloak. The gate trembled, then opened by itself. Kale looked up in surprise. "You did that?" Lyra smiled weakly. "I just asked it nicely." Kyle shook his head. "Remind me never to make you angry." They stepped inside a vast chamber filled with glowing blue pillars. The air vibrated with power at the center. Floating above a metal platform was the second core. It was larger than Lyra's and brighter, spinning slowly like a small sun. Lyra took a step forward, her breath catching in awe. She could feel its heartbeat. Calling to her, Kale whispered, "Careful. That much energy could fry your mind," but Lyra didn't stop. "It's like it knows me," she said softly. Before she could reach it, a voice echoed through the room. "I knew you'd come for it." Lyra turned sharply. A boy stepped from the shadows, his uniform black, marked with the symbol of the Galactic Authority. He looked her age, maybe younger, but his eyes glowed faint blue, just like hers. Kale's hand went to his blaster. "Who are you?" The boy smirked. "My name is Iran, and she's my reflection." Lyra's heart skipped. "Reflection?" Aaron stepped closer. "You and I were created together, from the same code, the same blood, the same dream." He looked at the second core. "They called me the success. And you the failure," Kale frowned. "Another hybrid?" "I thought she was the only one." Aaron's smile faded. "The only one who escaped." He turned his gaze to Lyra. "The Authority raised me, trained me, told me to destroy what they couldn't control." Lyra felt the world spin. She whispered, "They used you." Aaron's eyes flickered with anger. "Maybe, but I'm still their weapon." He lifted his hand, and the second core blazed bright, sending a wave of energy across the room. Kale was thrown backward. Crashing into the wall, Lyra fell to her knees. Shielding her face from the light, Aaron shouted over the roar, "You don't deserve this power, Lyra. You'll ruin everything." She looked up, tears in her eyes. "I don't want power. I just want to save my mom." The two cores began to pulse together, the air between them twisting like a storm. Energy crackled, blue lightning dancing across the walls. Kale groaned. "Lyra, stop this. You'll tear the whole chamber apart." Lyra tried to reach Aaron through the storm, her voice trembling. "You're not my enemy." But Aaron's voice was cold. "Then why do I feel your pain?" The floor exploded beneath them. The ceiling cracked and alarms screamed. As the chamber collapsed, both cores shot upward in a blinding beam of light. Lyra screamed his name as the force tore them apart. "Iran!" And then everything went black. When Lyra opened her eyes again, she was lying in the ruins. Kyle was nowhere to be seen. The second core was gone, and the first one pulsed weakly in her hand. She whispered into the silence. "He was like me, but broken inside." The city above burned in chaos, and somewhere in that fire, Aaron stood with the stolen core, his eyes glowing brighter than ever. The war between the hybrids had begun. The sky above Neo Haven burned red. Smoke rose from the broken towers, and the sound of alarms echoed through the metal streets. Somewhere in the ruins, Lyra opened her eyes, her body weak, her clothes torn. The energy core lay beside her, flickering faintly like a dying star. Her head throbbed with pain. Memories came rushing back, the chamber, the explosion, Aaron and his cold glowing eyes. She tried to stand, but her legs shook. She leaned against a wall and whispered, "Kale, where are you?" But there was no answer, only the wind carrying the sound of distant chaos. The world around her felt broken. The air smelled like smoke and metal. Neon signs flickered in the ruins, showing words from a world that no longer cared. Lyra clutched the core and whispered softly, "Please don't leave me too." The light inside it pulsed once, weak but alive. It seemed to understand her pain. She walked through the empty streets. Bodies of drones lay scattered, sparks still flying from their broken wires. Her reflection appeared in a shattered glass wall, pale face, glowing eyes. She didn't recognize herself anymore. She whispered, "Who am I now?" And deep inside, the core answered, not in words, but in warmth, reminding her that she was still human enough to care. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned quickly, energy forming around her hand. A voice said, "Easy, it's me." Kyle stepped out of the shadows, bruised but alive, his coat burned and torn. Lyra's eyes filled with relief. "You survived." He nodded slowly, barely. "The blast threw me half a mile away." He looked at her glowing eyes and sighed. "You're changing faster now." Lyra glanced down, scared. "It's like the core is merging with me." Kyle frowned. "Or maybe it's choosing you completely." They sat inside the ruins of an old metro station. Kale wrapped his wounds while Lyra stared at the core. She said quietly, "Aaron took the second one, didn't he?" Kale nodded. "Yes, and he's connected to the Authority now. They'll use him to hunt you, to control the cores." Lyra looked away. "He's not evil, Kale." "He's lost," Kale scoffed. "Lost or not, He'll destroy everything if we don't stop him. Lyra remembered Aaron's face. He looked like her, same age, same glowing eyes, same sadness behind his anger, she whispered. He said he felt my pain, like he could hear it. Cale nodded slowly. You were both made from the same DNA, connected through the same energy thread. If one of you loses control, the other will feel it. Lyra's heart sank. Then he'll know I'm still alive. Cale sighed. Yes, and he'll come for you, that night. They hid inside the ruins. Lyra couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Aaron, alone standing in fire, holding the second core. His eyes full of fury and fear, she whispered. He's hurting too. The core in her hands pulsed faintly like it agreed suddenly. The ground beneath them shook. Cale jumped to his feet. They've found us. The walls cracked, and bright light filled the room. Drones poured in from every side, their red eyes scanning the darkness. Lyra's instincts took over. The core flared bright blue, and energy exploded from her hands. The drones melted into ash, the air filled with electric light. When it was over, the silence was terrifying. Cale stared at her in awe. You're not just controlling the core anymore, he said slowly. You've become part of it. Lyra fell to her knees, trembling. It hurts, Cale, every time I use it. It burns. Cale knelt beside her. It's because you're holding back. Energy like that needs balance, she looked up. How can I find balance when everything I love is falling apart? Cale didn't answer. He touched her shoulder gently and said, Maybe by facing the part of you that you hate the most. Before she could reply, a cold voice echoed from behind. I couldn't agree more. They turned. Aaron stood at the tunnel entrance, surrounded by soldiers in black armor. His eyes glowed brighter than ever, and the second core floated beside him. Spinning like a blue sun, Lyra whispered, Aaron, stop. This isn't you. He tilted his head. You don't understand, Lyra. I was made to fix what you broke, she shook her head. You were made to heal, not destroy. Aaron's expression darkened. Healing requires sacrifice, he raised his hand. An energy surged between them. Cale shouted, Lyra, move. The blast hit the wall, shaking the entire station. Lyra pushed Cale aside and faced Aaron, her core glowing to match his. The two energies collided, blue and white. Twisting into a storm of light, sparks rained down like stars. The air itself screamed. Lyra cried out, You're not my enemy. Aaron's voice echoed back, Then stop fighting me. Their energy pulsed as one heartbeat. The ground cracked beneath them, and suddenly, a vision flashed through Lyra's mind. Two babies in a glass chamber, floating in light, their hands touching before being torn apart. Tears filled her eyes. We were never meant to fight. Aaron hesitated for a moment, his power flickering, but the soldiers behind him shouted, Kill her! His eyes turned cold again. Lyra's core burned hotter, her voice trembling. If you want to end me, then look in the mirror, Aaron. Because I am you. The light exploded, blinding the city above. Kyle shielded his face as both hybrids vanished into the storm. When the light faded, there was only silence. No soldiers, no sound, just the hum of distant thunder. Kyle whispered into the empty air. Lyra, somewhere far away on the edge of a ruined tower. Lyra opened her eyes. The core floated quietly before her, whispering like wind. You have seen the truth, it said inside her mind. He is your reflection, your other half, and only together can you save what remains. Lyra looked toward the city, glowing red in the distance, her voice soft but steady. Then I'll find him, she said, and this time, I won't run. The morning sky over Neo Haven looked strange. The sun tried to rise, but its light was pale. Dimmed by smoke and dust, half the city was silent. The other half still burning, machines lay broken. Towers leaned like dying giants, and in the middle of it all stood Lyra, her hair blowing in the cold wind. The core hovered above her palm, glowing faintly, alive but tired. She had searched through the ruins all night, calling Aaron's name. Her voice echoed across the empty streets, but there was no answer. She could still feel him somewhere out there, connected to her heartbeat every time she closed her eyes. She saw flashes of his pain, his confusion, his loneliness. He wasn't gone, not yet. Cale limped beside her, his metal arm sparking from the last battle. He looked at her and said quietly, If you go after him again, there might be no coming back. Lyra didn't look at him, her eyes fixed on the glowing skyline. He's not the enemy, Kyle, she said. He's lost. Like I was, Cale sighed. And if saving him destroys you? Lyra smiled faintly. Then at least I'll go trying to heal. Not to hate, they reached the upper bridge from there. She could see the central tower, the authorities' last stronghold. At its peak, a swirling beam of blue light reached into the sky. It was the second core. Fully awakened, Aaron had connected it to the city's power grid. And now it was growing stronger by the minute. Cale checked his scanner. The energy levels are off the charts, he said. If it keeps rising, the core will collapse. And it'll take half the planet with it. Lyra looked at the sky. Then we stop it, she said softly. Cale grabbed her arm. Lyra, listen to me. This isn't a fight you can win. Not with power. Maybe only with forgiveness. She looked at him, her eyes glowing faint blue. That's exactly what I plan to use. Without waiting. She stepped onto the bridge, her core floated higher, forming a shield of light around her. Cale watched her walk away until she disappeared into the storm. He whispered under his breath, "Don't die, kid," inside the tower. The air vibrated with energy. Walls cracked, and blue lightning ran through the floor. Aaron stood at the center, his body surrounded by the second core's blinding glow. His eyes burned like twin stars. The machines around him obeyed his every movement. Forming a cage of pure light, he didn't notice Lyra at first. When he finally did, his voice was tired. "You shouldn't have come back," he said. Lyra stepped closer. "I had to." He looked away. "You'll only make it worse." She took another step. The two cores pulsed together, their lights merging in the air. "You're killing yourself, Aaron," she said. "This power wasn't meant for one person." Aaron's voice cracked. "Maybe it was meant for no one." He looked at her, his expression full of pain. "They made us to fix their mistakes, Lyra, to heal worlds that didn't want to be healed." His voice broke into anger, and when they failed, they called us monsters. Lyra's eyes softened. "I know," she whispered. "But maybe we don't have to be what they made us," Aaron laughed bitterly. "You talk like it's easy to forget." Lyra shook her head. "It's not about forgetting, it's about forgiving." She reached out her hand. "You're not alone anymore." The tower shook violently. The second core's power began to spiral out of control. Lightning struck the walls and the machine screamed. Aaron shouted, "It's too late, I can't stop it now." Lyra stepped closer, her own core glowing brighter. "Then let me help," she said. Aaron's eyes widened. "If you merge the cores, you'll burn yourself out." Lyra smiled through tears. "Maybe that's the only way to make them whole again." For a moment, time seemed to stop. Lyra placed her hand over his. Their cores floated into the air and touched. The world went silent. Then, light. A light so bright it filled every corner of the city. Every shadow, every broken thing. It wasn't fire, it was warmth. A wave of healing energy spread across Neo Haven. The air turned clean, the machines powered down peacefully. The dead streets bloomed with green once more. The people who hid underground stepped out, breathing freely. The storm was over. When the light faded, Cale stood on the bridge. He looked up at the tower. The top had vanished. In its place, a blue crystal floated quietly. Glowing like a heart in the sky, he whispered, "Lyra." There was no answer, only a soft voice carried by the wind. "Tell her. She's safe now." Cale looked down. Tears in his eyes, he smiled sadly. "You did it, kid. You actually did it." Days later, Neo Haven began to rebuild. People told stories of a girl with glowing eyes who stopped the end of the world. Some said she was an angel, others said a ghost. But those who had known her remembered her words, simple, human, and full of love. "I only wanted to save my mom." And somewhere in the stars, beyond human sight, two lights drifted side by side, Lyra and Aaron. No longer weapons, no longer hunted, just two souls finally at peace. The galaxy would remember them not as monsters, but as the ones who saved two worlds with a single act of compassion